Hello and welcome to Little Live Story, the podcast where we take an anime and turn it into a movie.
And a movie and turn it into an anime.
I'm Eric.
I'm Jared. And before we begin, if you want to follow us on Twitter, our podcast Twitter account is JaredNEric1. That's Jared, the letter N, Eric1.
And that one has the links to all of our personal Twitters and the SoundCloud and all that good stuff to you. That's our one-stop shop. All right, what do you got for me today?
All right. Are you ready?
As ever.
Okay. Phantom. Requiem for the fandom.
There's so many phantoms in that.
I know.
Give us our recap.
All right. A Japanese tourist gets caught in the middle of a grisly crime scene dealing with a super mafia group called Inferno.
Super mafia, eh?
Yeah. They kidnap him, bring him back, drug him, and use hypnosis to basically erase all of his memories. And he is then trained as the infamous Zwei, an assassin that kills and murders for Inferno's grandiose ideals.
Okay, full disclosure, I think out of everything you've made me watch for this show so far, this was actually my least favorite.
It's a little surprising. I had hopes for this one.
Again, as usual, there's things about it I kind of like, but no. But I know what I'm doing.
All right.
Okay, we get a bit of a cold opening here. We start with our lead, who will come to know as Zwei, just like the anime. And he's in a strip mall somewhere in Miami or some kind of beachfront, very tropical, very beautiful place. He's with a girl, he's shopping, he's, looking at clothes or food. And it's very, it's almost idyllic. Then right before he steps into, the, let's say, third store down the strip, we hear thunder rumble above, and then a raindrop falls out of the sky just as he looks up, hits him right on the head, like right in the scalp.
Okay.
He reaches up, touches, where the water hit, and he pulls his arm down to look at it. We swivel around him into some kind of over the shoulder so we can see what he sees. Instead of water, it's blood.
All right. I half expected that.
Yeah, well. Then we have a sudden match cut to what would be present day. He's, again, looking at blood on his hand, except he's in the middle of sparring with Ein. We're in this creepy, fucked up, concrete, drab training facility, and he's in the middle of a sparring match with this woman who we'll come to know as Ein.
Okay.
And she has just wanged him on the head with like a lead pipe. So he, recoiled from the hit, and maybe he flashed back, maybe he hallucinated, maybe that was just for our sake to see flashback, or maybe it wasn't even real. Either way, he recoils, he's looking at the blood, and then she gives him 5 seconds, then comes at him again, and they both clash with knives or pipes or something. They get back to sparring.
That was my question, because usually in the show, whenever they're sparring, they're usually sparring with knives, if it's not guns, which is rare. So I just didn't know whether it was knives, barehanded, or whatever.
I think he here has a knife because she's better than him, so she has a non-edged weapon.
Okay.
Something like that.
All right, that makes sense.
She has a handicap.
Okay, that's fair.
Then we see that night, and he collapses into his bed quarters, like literally face on bed, asleep almost instantly in this really, again, drab, almost bunker-like facility that he lives in. Mm-hmm. And there's a second bed to the right, which would obviously be Ein's, but she looks in at him, nods, walks away. Then we see her reporting to the doctor, the lead gentleman in charge of the whatever project this is. Did he have a name in the anime? What was it?
I don't remember, honestly.
Whatever, that's fine. I'm just going to keep calling him the doctor or the chief scientist, whatever. But she reports to him, gives a brief description of how Zwei's training is going. She says, pretty well. He says, excellent, awesome, thank you, my dear. And he's the same kind of pseudo creep with her as he is in the anime, kind of just...
Is he still a German?
No, because I think the German doctor cliche is one of the worst fucking cliches in fiction.
Okay.
So no. But I think he's got German descent. Like, there's still some German to it, but he's not a Nazi.
All right, gotcha.
Then our lead doctor here takes this information that Ein gives him, pats her on the head, says, good work, my love, go rest up, you had a long day. And then he gets into a limousine, drives away. Cut, and we see him and many other shadowy figures in a big circular room, very low light with a projector in the middle, basically showing a slideshow. And here we see him give a pitch for what he's selling, which is these assassins, these phantoms, see?
Yep.
And he gives a bit of exposition about who Zwei was, telling everyone, so we took a man who was just a normal college student and turned him in the span of 7 months into, and, you know, shows footage from that day of him nailing 6 out of 6 bullseyes with a revolver kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So he gives a mixture of exposition and explanation as to what's going on and who this man was and now is being turned into. And so we get this kind of really creepy world elite light in silhouette around who are vying for this thing he's pitching. Yes, it's still called Inferno, except they're not assassins themselves. They're not like a league of assassins or whatever the hell they were. They're more a factory for assassins.
So rather than being, as they describe in the anime, the UN of Mafia, they
call themselves that?
Yeah, they do.
Holy
I think
shit.
I think you were talking when they said that.
Oh,
but
okay.
That's what they call themselves. So rather than being the UN of Mafia, they are instead what?
Again, they're sort of an underworld producer of these warp super soldiers.
Okay, so Inferno itself is a factory, whereas the people that are around
they're
here,
selling it to this creepy global elite of people who would need the service
so those
of these
creepy people are not actually part of Inferno.
No.
Okay, that was
Inferno is a little more insular, a little smaller. It's just the Doctor and his people and all of the phantoms he's created.
Okay.
But yeah, he is not married to the phantoms in the same way. He makes them and sells them off to the highest bidder.
Okay.
But after this bit, we cut back to the facility where we will spend the vast majority of this film. And we see Ein and Zwei training. Now, this isn't a training montage. We're going to dedicate the next 20 to 30 minutes on them training.
Oh, geez.
Very little dialogue, a lot of imagery, a lot of repetition. We're going to show, let's say, him, shooting downrange at targets, show another scene of something else, cut back to the exact same angle of him shooting at the exact same targets over and over and over again. Again, very little dialogue between them. It's almost like they've gone past words at this point already in their dehumanization. It's more like he'll look at her and nod, and then she'll look at him and then know what that meant and then set up targets, something like that.
Kind of like what they did in the anime.
Except she doesn't shut the fuck up in the anime.
Well, no, it's actually more him. He's monologuing through the entire time that he's
we're cutting
the monologue.
We're cutting the ham-handed internal monologue.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, so we dedicate a long time to this repetitive training grind that they do in this drab, horrible, horrible place, to the point where we want the audience to really empathize with how much these kids, and I say kids for once because they're both maybe 25 or under.
Okay. So they're not as they are in the anime, they are older.
A little. I mean, again, they're still young, though.
Yeah, it is a little nebulous how old they are.
As usual.
It may have shown you on Zwei's ID card, but I don't remember. But either way, they are young.
But by the end of this sequence, we just want the audience to really be fully aware of how dehumanized these two are. To the point where, let's say, for contrast, at the beginning of this sequence of scenes, we have a scene where they both go into their dorm because they share a room with, mattresses on the floor kind of thing. And she strips full naked and he, averts his eyes to be respectful or what have you. But by the end of it, they're both just fully naked as if they're Holocaust victims or animals. It just doesn't matter. That's the last thing on their minds is sex or thinking of each other as even just people. So yeah, it goes without saying this is a hard R rating we're going for.
That's fair.
But after all this is over, we have a scene where one of the handlers, and there's handlers in this version, as in people that Inferno have left to watch them,
Okay,
mostly
so
the perimeter guards.
It's not just Ein the entire time.
No, because they trust her, and the Doctor does have a weird thing for her, but it just makes more sense to have more staff.
So, which actually begs the question. In the anime, the reason that Zwei can't escape is because they're basically in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by desert with nothing around.
They still are.
Okay.
They're still in the middle of nowhere. We don't even know that because we haven't left. We haven't seen the exterior yet.
Okay. But it's just also that there's staff and security guards and whatnot.
Yeah, as an extra layer.
Okay.
But we don't see them much either, but we just know they're there. Anyway, at the end of one of the staff's shifts or what have you, one of them finishes a drink they were drinking, like, a can of Coke or whatever, crumples it, tosses it off to one side, rolls into the corner. We focus on this for a second, and then we cut to a reverse shot of Zwei noticing, eyeing it down, and we have a moment where it's like, okay, what the hell does this mean? Cut to that night, he's laying awake in bed, assumedly thinking about it. He's just kind of staring at the ceiling, waits until he hears Ein's breathing slow, assumedly asleep. Then he throws his blanket off, gets up. He finds that can of soda and starts doing something with it. He basically files it down to the point where he can pick a lock with it. And I've looked this up. You can pick a lock with a soda can.
I wasn't going to question it, but I'm glad you did the research.
Yes. But so he picks one of the exterior door padlocks or whatever with the soda can, opens the door, gives a quick look right, quick look left, bolts out into the desert. Doesn't make it 20 feet before he's winged by a gunshot from Ein.
Yeah.
She was standing, where he just was, just holding one of her handguns, his flat face, just no.
Yeah.
She calls it in. The scientist shows up. The staff shows up. They drag him back in. He's not kicking or screaming. He's just...
He's like, fuck, I failed.
Basically. And the doctor gives a brief little monologue about this. Is kind of a bit disappointed in you, Zwei, but, they all try it at one point or another, but you need to be taught kind of thing. So he does an equivalent wound on Ein, punishing him by punishing her, like shoots her in the same place she shot him or something, and then doubles down on the dehumanization effect on both of them, like removes their toilet seat, removes their mattress, something fucked up, like removes their light bulbs, just something to really hammer home, don't do this again.
Yeah, like these are luxuries we've given you. You don't need them.
It's dark shit. He also reveals that this whole thing with the Coke can and everything was a long form training module. Like it was a trap that he wanted to see if Ein or Zwei more likely would take. Mm-hmm. So after this, we get a couple more training scenes, again, repetitive camera work and all that such. We can basically infer at this point that Zwei is, he's starting to really, really just kind of give in. I mean, not that he ever had that much fight in him.
Yeah.
But before he at least had enough of a spark to go for it, now he's just going through the motions. Eyes are getting more glazed, just does not seem to register anymore. Then at the tail end of this next bit of training scenes, we cut and we're suddenly in a shopping mall. And we see the man we know as Zwei walking around the shopping mall. He's smiling. He's buying a corn dog. He makes eyes at a passing girl who, winks back at him. And then we're like, okay, a flashback, right?
Yeah.
No, because then Ein walks up and just like the anime gives him one of those, oh, why were you looking at her? They're posing in the mall as a couple.
Okay, so it is the scene where they were scoping things out at the mall from the anime. Gotcha.
Except in the anime, they were there to take out a target. Mm-hmm. And in this, they're just doing surveillance. It's half training, half surveillance on a target for someone else.
Okay.
So during this scene, we're really going to play with Zwei's perception. Let's say they're watching their target across the food court from them. We'll have a wide shot of the whole mall. It's them and 70 other people. No one, you can't even tell where they are in the shot. Then we'll cut to a skewed version of this angle, and we'll see, let's say, just them and their target in the mall alone, like basically a reverse image of what they're seeing, because they're so dialed into, ignoring everything else.
Yeah, they see nothing but their target.
Yeah, or like their target's painted in red, or again, they're wearing wolf masks and he's wearing rabbit ears to symbolize the predator-prey thing, or everyone in the mall has strings on them except for them, or they have strings and no one else does. Really
play with symbolism.
Yeah, really play with the artsy symbolism and the metaphors and all that visually.
Okay.
And really emphasize that this is how he is starting to see the world. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the scene, let's say they follow the target outside, he gets into a car, they take down the license plate, drives away, they pass on the information. There's a moment where they get a call on their phone or earpiece radio or whatever. Scientist says, we'll be there in 5 minutes. Hold your positions. Zwei's eyes look off to the right and he sees, let's say, a motorcycle that someone left there. He has a moment where obviously through facial acting we get, he's considering something. He could maybe hop on it and make a break for it. Mm-hmm. He does not. He stares at his opportunity until the person who owns the motorcycle hops on it, drives away with his only chance to escape.
Yeah.
Then the car arrives, picks them up, gets in without a hitch.
Mm-hmm. See, his mistake was trying the soda can thing. He should have waited until he had a real opportunity like the motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly. Victim blaming. I like it.
Yeah.
So we cut and we're back in the facility and now we hit our climax.
Our climax?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Similar to what happened in the anime, the doctor arrives with a person in tow. A person he gives a speech to basically says, here's a key. It goes to the back door of this facility. You're going to enter this facility. If you can make it to the other side without my operative killing you, we'll give you, call it an hour head start. This man is not a Navy SEAL or something?
He was a U.S. Navy SEAL.
No, this one's a convict. Because we're going to play more with, again, dehumanization. This guy, comparably to Ein and Zwei, has been dehumanized by, internment and blah, blah, blah. So he's a fucked up convict.
So rather than being like a challenge of skill, it's more just a
desperation. And it's exactly. So just like the anime, he agrees, goes into the facility, and we get a game of cat and mouse with Zwei and this convict. Ein is, as usual, watching, mediating at least. So maybe the convict jumps on Zwei and they have a bit of a wrestling match, and then Zwei leads him into a trap where he goes into a room with one entrance, but it doesn't last super, super long. And by the end of it, Zwei shoots the man in the face.
All right.
Like full on viscera, just blows his head off close range. And boom.
So better than he did in the anime where he failed to kill the Navy
where he
SEAL.
missed 2 different really easy shots.
Yeah, because he hesitated.
Yeah. But so after he kills the guy, Ein arrives, and in that exact moment, his body reacts the same way that any normal human's body would when you kill someone. He goes into shock. He starts vomiting on the floor. He convulses, like he falls over. He's freaking out because he hasn't actually killed anyone yet.
Yeah.
In that moment, something snaps. He's been so dehumanized and so desensitized to all of this shit, but now that he's actually done it, now that he feels all the bodily repercussions of taking a life, he kind of snaps back to feeling like a person, and this whole world of not caring collapses in on itself, and he just basically breaks the fuck down. Ein is as taciturn as ever. She kind of gives him a 2-word, just good work. And he, almost wordlessly grabs her by her pants or, her feet or something, asks her to kill him. Again, there's not much dialogue. This movie doesn't have a shitload of dialogue, but she looks at him. They have a really tense stare down, a long stare down. She, looks at what he did, looks at the fucking puke, looks at his condition, looks at how much he's shaking.
Yeah.
Pulls out her sidearm, shoots him in the face.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he's fucking dead. Dunzo.
All right. Our lead is dead.
Now, important thing to note here. This Ein is a little closer to Zwei in this version. Not personally, but just in terms of who they are. Because she hasn't killed anyone yet either.
Oh, interesting.
So killing Zwei kind of chain reactions her into not nearly to the same degree, but she twitches. Maybe that was the blood hitting her cheek. Maybe it was the muzzle flash she was just shielding her eyes from. But maybe it wasn't. Mm-hmm. So she has some kind of reaction to killing him, which should have been trained out of her by now.
Yeah.
So she reaches down, takes the key out of the convict's pocket, and then looks down the hall at where the exit sign is. She notes on her wristwatch or pocket watch, whatever, some kind of method they gave to help her monitor how long until the time ran out.
Yeah.
She still has, call it, 10-minute head start. She pauses, looks down the hall, waits. Chris Nolan Inception style, the second there's discernible movement toward that exit, cut to black, the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we play it ambiguous. Is she returning the key to the doctor just to say, he failed, fucking find a new one? Or is she making a run for it because she now has some humanity knocked back into her? Is she going to fall in the same mistakes? Is she going to get caught? Doesn't matter.
Wow. All right, so you basically took the first 5 or so episodes of the anime.
I'm not always going to do that, but it's easier when I'm trying to construct a narrative out of the story.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying you took the first 5 episodes of the anime, combined it with the ending of the anime, and made a narrative of that. Which
sounds good to me.
Yeah, no, I like it. It's just very funny.
Yeah. And this whole thing, again, very drab, very repetitive, while still being visually interesting. Like, we don't want to bore the audience. So the cinematography repeats itself, but it's always interesting to look at. Mm-hmm. And the music is very droning, very heavy industrial, very, again, gets into your brain.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I'm a little sad we didn't get the quote-unquote Phantom Zwei, the one where he's super swag, wearing a suit and just, has the best theme ever.
Yeah, Jared made me privy to his theme. It's funky, I'll say.
It's really, really good.
Oh, yeah, because I like doing this. Directed by either Danny Boyle, who you'd know him from nothing, Jared. I don't think.
For the audience sake, why don't you just name some movies?
28 Days Later, Steve Jobs, Sunshine, Slumdog Millionaire. He's not afraid to get weird.
Okay.
The more likely candidate, and again, film people do not, it is not because he directed Requiem for a Dream, and that's ironic, Darren Aronofsky. Again, Jared, you would know him from nothing, but again, Mother, Requiem for a Dream. He's really, really unafraid to get weird, and he's done a lot with imagery and visuals and shit. I'm not even a huge fan of him, but it's a great fit.
Okay.
For that kind of, again, playing with perceptions and a lot of imagery in lieu of little dialogue and such.
All right, makes sense.
Hard R rating, really, really intense, really bleak, would not make any money because it's really fucked up. I think Zwei would be played by Miles Teller, who you, Jared, would know. He was Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four movie that no one liked.
Oh.
From the newer one.
Oh, Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and most people would know him as he's the lead from the movie Whiplash. It's a dramedy about drumming.
Okay.
And Ian, I'm a little less confident on, but someone physically diminutive, but who can really play intense. I'm thinking Emilia Clarke. She's the dragon chick from Game of Thrones.
Oh.
And she was Sarah Connor in Terminator Genesis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so her.
Okay.
Oh yeah, one more thing. This was not called Phantom Requiem for a Phantom. It's just called Requiem for the Phantom.
I mean, that's what I call it.
Yeah, we're just excising the goddamn extra Phantom from the title.
Yeah, I just refer to it as Requiem for the Phantom because the beginning Phantom is kind of unnecessary. Yes, Eric, it has lots of phantoms. Anyway.
Yeah, okay. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, sweet. So, for today, your challenge is to make an anime out of First Blood.
Rambo?
Yes, the first Rambo movie based on the novel of the same name.
All right, take me through the story.
Okay, a former Vietnam soldier, John Rambo, who, after visiting a town in the Pacific Northwest looking for an old war buddy who turned out to have died of cancer, gets into a big conflict with a local sheriff who has prejudices against him based on, his time in the service and his appearance and all this stuff. And it turns into a full-blown war with the entire police force and the National Guard. And then his former military handler, Colonel Troutman, is called in to try and rein in the situation. And it just escalates from there.
All right.
Take us there.
Before we begin, there's one thing that needs to be stated so that you can paint this picture.
Okay.
This is a 90s anime. It's grungier. The lines aren't as pretty. The people aren't as pretty.
So sketchier and okay.
Yeah. Being a 90s anime allows me to take some creative liberties with the way it's going to be. Because a lot of anime, I'm not going to go into full description, but a lot of modern anime has certain themes and certain styles that are kind of consistent.
And everyone's prettier.
Yeah, and 90s anime has way more variety in terms of where they can go.
Okay.
So that's what I'm using this to allow me to go where I'm going.
All right, clarification noted.
Okay. We open with a older looking man with a gray beard out in the forest. He's jotting something down on a piece of paper. We don't see what it is, but he's jotting something down, and then he slips it underneath a root of the tree. He then stands back up and starts walking. He arrives at the main road and starts following it along. We start seeing a title crawl while he's walking. As the town gets closer, the titles finish up when he arrives. Unlike the movie, he actually makes it into the town, and he arrives at a diner and sits down at a table and basically hails a waitress.
This is already a radical departure. This is not First Blood. Go on.
Anyway, the waitress arrives, immediately shoots him a look, like, what the hell are you doing here? Then basically shakes it off and hands him a menu, kind of begrudgingly. She walks off, not even saying any more words. He starts looking at the menu. We start tuning into other people's voices around the diner, and a lot of them like, what is he doing here? How dare he come in here? What's a Jap doing here?
Oh shit, I think I know what you're doing.
All right, so he's reading the menu, and then we see his eye turns slightly to the left at a guy reading a newspaper who's clearly failing to hide the fact he's staring. And we see on the newspaper, we zoom in, it says 1942 July.
I knew it.
The waitress comes back and basically takes his order and whatever. Few people actually are leaving because he's in here. So this goes on for a little bit. Like, he gets his food, he eats, he tips, and he's about to leave.
And I assume he's nothing but polite this whole time.
Yeah. Like, he's a little short with people because honestly, by this point, he's kind of been dealing with this a lot, but he's not done anything at all. Anyway, as he's about to leave, a sheriff does walk into the diner.
So I have to assume we're in the United States.
Yes, we actually are in the United States.
Nice. Whereabouts?
Specifically West Coast, California.
Okay.
But Northern California. So the sheriff's like, hey, what are you doing here, pal? You're not supposed to be here. And he's like, I'm allowed to do whatever I want. The sheriff's like, no, pal, you are not. And he's like, I served my time. And the cop's like, the hell you did. I'm taking you in. You don't get any more say. And it's like, no, I'm not coming in. And he's like, yes, you are. And he takes out his handcuffs and reaches to get him. The main character does a really skillful takedown, a one-armed, like basically judo flip takedown, and bolts out of the diner. He's now running down the street.
Hey, since this is, now in America, is this still Sheriff Teasel?
Sure.
Just because, we're not going to name him Sheriff Ichiguro or whatever.
No. The names are American.
Except for our lead, I assume?
Our lead has an American first name and a Japanese last name.
Okay. Is he still John or?
Well, honestly, if you
Doesn't
want
matter.
me, yeah, it doesn't really matter. His first name could still be Rambo.
His first name's not Rambo.
Well, his first name is Rambo. I don't know.
Fuck.
It doesn't really matter. So we see him escape and running down the street and fleeing into the town. The sheriff gets up and basically makes a call on his radio and be like, yeah, we have to call them in. We don't know who he's referring to, but cut back to the main character and he's running, and then he ends up hiding inside a house. We see him basically like breathe a sigh of relief and then turn around and see a half-naked female standing there, clearly just from the shower, about to scream. We cut, ending crawl starts, first episode.
That's funny.
When we pick back up in the second episode, after this is also an anime that's going to have a lot of recaps. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, this anime spends at least 3 or 4 minutes every episode
Holy
recapping
shit.
the episode previous.
Whatever. Well, it's 90s again.
Yeah.
Last time on Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. So there's a lot of recap time, so they get to pad out some of the runtime.
Sure.
So he spends a little bit basically trying to calm her down as she's like screaming, and he's like, no, stop. You have to calm down. So they're darting around the house in a game of cat and mouse.
That rhymed.
Thank you. And he finally catches her. Listen, I'm not the bad guy here. I just need to sit this out for a little bit. Some sheriff is unfairly blaming me for being who I am. And she's like, Rambo?
The fuck?
She knows him.
She saw the movie. Oh.
Yeah, she saw the American movie that totally doesn't exist in this universe.
Damn it.
Anyway, she recognizes him and she's like, Rambo? And he's like, I don't know, Cheryl?
Yeah.
What?
No, nothing. Bad Stallone impression is
No.
yeah.
Yeah, sure. And she's like, what are you doing here? I thought you left so many years ago. And basically now we get a short exposition of who this guy is. His full name, we learn that he was 43 or abouts. I've done my math. He actually served in World War I and was...
For America, I assume.
Yes, for America in an American unit, and got medals and was like a bit, was a good war hero. But since the internment of Japanese people have started, he's not really been on the run. He just sort of been
A vagrant, just like Rambo.
Yeah,
Nomadic.
yeah, basically. Some places he gets welcomes like with Teagle, and some places he just gets weird
Teasel.
stares. Teasel?
Yeah, Teasel.
Okay.
It barely matters, but
Anyway, he goes through that exposition, and it's revealed that this lady is actually a childhood friend of his, and he grew up in a town semi-nearby here. This is not the town he grew up in, but she moved, and he just so happened to reconnect with her here.
happenstance.
Yes. Anyway, after the whole exposition, we then hear the military outside with bullhorns, and they're like, we know you're in there. You better come out here before we put holes throughout the whole building. And the woman's like, wait, what? I'm in here. This is my house. She starts freaking out, and
Yeah, that escalated fucking quickly. This is Grand Theft Auto now.
Rambo, after some discussing with her, basically says, all right, I gotta go. I'm gonna put you in danger if I stay here, and it's not a good hiding place anyway. He books out the back door and flees further into the town. The military, within a matter of minutes, realizes that he's gone, packs their stuff up, and starts chasing him throughout.
Fucking back doors.
Yeah, so
Absolute kryptonite of any military force.
Yep. He's fleeing through the town, and he eventually arrives at a forest. The military, then we see, parks right outside. They start discussing plans of like basically how to flush him out, and how there's some discussions of him being a quote unquote dangerous Jap, and he could be working for the enemy. And we don't get the full description of what their feelings on it are, but there's clearly animosity that goes just beyond the fact.
It's not just that he's Japanese.
Yeah, it's not just that he's Japanese, but it also might be that he's just Japanese. So there's a little bit of like,
We're just playing with the prejudices.
yes, exactly.
Lovely. All right.
So we spend the next while watching him survive in the forest. Like he's hunting for food like he does in the movie and whatnot. He's doing a lot of like,
Survival stuff.
yes, as the military is calling in reinforcements and whatnot. And this is the National Guard. And this National Guard is a lot less ineffectual as it was in the movie. These aren't like,
Weekend warriors.
yeah, and a lot of them have memory of the attack on Pearl Harbor. So that's
Obviously.
why there's a lot of specific anger towards him as a Japanese person.
Really, I never would have guessed.
Well, no, it just needed stating.
I know, I'm just kidding. One thing I will say that's interesting. This, I think, is the first time that you've been able to, in your adaptation, 100% retain the aesthetic of the original movie. We're essentially still in the Pacific Northwest in a similar, I assume, looking town. So it retains the entirety of what it looked like.
Yeah, I'll go into why later, but yes, I did notice that when I was planning this out.
I trust you. That wasn't a criticism.
Eventually, the military does storm into the forest. And then we see his Batman-esque takedowns. Like, it's completely non-lethal. It's not even like hurting. Like, there's no spike traps, there's no stabbings, there's no gunshots back at the enemies and whatever. There's none of that.
Weak.
He's completely non-lethally taking people down. Like, there are traps, but the traps are like the one-legged tied up to a tree, which then he'll go bash the guy to knock him out and stuff like that. It's completely non-lethal.
Yeah, or like they'll fall into a pitfall, or he'll knock him down the hill or something.
Yeah, exactly. So we see a lot of non-lethal takedowns.
No piercing weapons.
Yeah, none at all. So he's running around the forest for a while, and he eventually is about to be cornered when he hears a female voice somewhere far away basically being like, come here, this way, this way. And he ducks down and sees a log that he can crawl underneath. He does that, and he basically falls down a short hill and sees the girl from earlier. Cheryl.
Yeah, we'll keep with Cheryl.
Yeah. She's like, I couldn't stand the fact that they were hunting you like this. You're not an animal. I know you. He like basically does a thank you to her and whatever, but he's like, you have to get out of here. This is not your place. You shouldn't be here.
Cheryl here has highlighted the fact that First Blood doesn't have a single fucking female character.
Yeah.
I think the only female character is the widow of his friend in that very first scene. Other than that, I'm not sure if there's even a female background character anywhere.
It's a very masculine movie.
Damn.
So she's like, I'm not going to leave because this is completely unfair treatment. I'm going to go talk to the military commander. And he's like, no, if you do that, they'll detain you. And then best case, they'll detain you for a while and you'll be treated like a prisoner. Worst case, they'll use you against me. And she's like, well, it's not like I can just leave now. There's military people all over. So he begrudgingly takes her along and decides they have to leave the forest because he can hunt for himself. He can hide himself, but he can't really hide her that well. So they sneak out through a section of where the cordon of the forest is broken, and he basically runs into an industrial part of the town where he gets into a warehouse. And by this point, he does have guns. He had procured a couple from the guards, but he hasn't actually been using any. So he is coming strapped. So he's planning to hold out in this warehouse until he decides what to do, while the military is now surrounding the warehouse. He's realizing that his time is coming.
Jesus Christ, they have a tracking device on him?
They're more like...
No, like you said, they're Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, they're very efficient.
There's only one warehouse within throwing distance of this forest, probably.
Yeah, it's not like they had to search far. He's on foot.
Yeah, true.
This begins the final holdout of the segment. He's now more lethally using guns, using traps inside the warehouse to fight off the National Guard as they come in. And you might ask, why don't they just blow up this place? Well,
that factory could be making good munitions for the war effort.
Yeah, definitely. And the forest could burn and spread too big for them to
collateral damage.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to contain this. And besides, at the end of the day, this is only one potential spy, as they would claim
If he gets superpowers, I'm gonna fucking tackle you.
Well...
Continue.
Anyway, so this all goes down until eventually he has the military commander at gunpoint. He has a pistol to his head. Basically, the military commander at some point was within striking distance of the warehouse.
And he darted out, grabbed him.
Yeah, and then is holding him hostage. And now he's like, stop coming after me. I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't killed anyone. I haven't done anything. I've just been living my own life. And he's like, you are a possible threat to national security. I cannot allow you to be running around free without anyone having your reins. And this is where the female character comes in, Cheryl, and she's pleading for Rambo's life, and she's like, please don't, he's a good guy, he's only defending himself, and yada, yada, yada. And eventually, Rambo realizes that in order to save Cheryl, because the military is basically losing their patience, in order to save Cheryl, he has to turn himself in. So they come to an agreement, the military commander and Rambo, to get him to give up and go to wherever they're going to take him. Because by this point, it's gone way beyond
just surrendering.
Yeah. By this point, he's clearly not going to go to an internment camp. He is far too dangerous of an individual to just be an internment camp. It's more likely prison or military prison or something that isn't...
Yeah, if they put him in general population at a Japanese internment camp, he would turn Manzanar into like a John Connor revolutionary state.
Yeah. So he's escorted out, and the main female is also escorted out, but it's treated as if she was a hostage.
Yeah,
That's how the military.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yep. They're going
media
like, "Are you?"
bullshit. They put a blanket over her and put her in the back of one of their hatchbacks, and they're like, "Oh, you poor thing! Like, what did he do to you?"
100%.
Damn.
They then drive off. We now are, by this point, on the last episode. Well, we have been. This was the last episode.
Yeah.
However, this is the last, 3 minutes. As the car that has Rambo drives away, we then cut all the way back. And by cut, I mean we super zoom all the way back to the tree where he put that little letter at the beginning underneath whatever he was writing underneath the tree root.
I was going to make fun of you for super zoom, but now I'm curious.
A man kneels down, picks up the letter, unravels it. It's in Japanese.
Okay.
The guy reads it, puts it away, picks up a radio, and in Japanese talks to someone. We cut.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So
So
what was going on? Who
Colonel
knows?
Troutman.
Was he actually a Japanese spy? What was something that he did to just calm himself down, taken by the enemy? Was he friend? Was he foe? We don't know. That's the important thing with this. This ending is very was he actually a good guy?
We don't plan this. We didn't both plan for ambiguous endings, I swear to God.
Yeah, it just sort of worked out that way.
Wow. Again, I'll say you actually surprised me.
I'm glad. So the reason I didn't change too much was because I decided, rather than inventing a whole scenario around Japanese people being treated like second citizens, which there are definitely cases of that, but I didn't feel like any of them fit perfectly.
Why just fall back onto historical?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was either this or something completely radically different. So it ended up being a very similar styled one as the real Rambo movie, but it still was enough to be able to be used as an anime.
It's funny, when I told you to do this one, I fell back because I thought, what would I do?
Mm-hmm.
And my idea was an American soldier in Japan being persecuted. Yours makes more sense.
Yeah,
But,
the American soldier in Japan would just be fucking killed, especially, well, if it's a World War II.
yeah, I think I meant post-war just to deal with the prejudices.
Yeah,
but yours
yeah.
makes more sense and is more socially relevant, so fuck me, I guess.
But yeah, the reason I made it a 90s anime is because 90s anime were more willing to take risks and whatnot. So not only is this a really gritty anime, it's also taking place in America with an Americanized Japanese person. It's allowed me for more liberal changes.
Yeah, I like it. How long is this? This feels short.
It is short. It's just 12 episodes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was 8 or do they do that?
Yeah, only Netflix does that.
Fair.
So no, it's just a standard 12 episode anime. I have yet to actually come up with one so far that is an exceptionally long one.
I mean, that's fine. Okay, one thing I do have to ask, though.
Okay.
Because in the film, Rambo only technically kills one person, and it's self-defense, the cop in the helicopter that he throws the rock at, and he falls.
I don't even consider that a kill.
Well,
honestly.
they do. But
yeah.
so you said this Rambo, by the final confrontation, is shooting a little more overtly. So does he kill anyone? Like, what is his actual body count?
So as far
If
as
any.
we know, it's 0. However, the ending episodes, like let's say the last 2 or 3 episodes, he's super liberal with his gunshots.
So there's a few more instances of, oh, wait, that guy might be dead.
Yeah,
Or
like-
he shoots at like a car and it crashes and it's like, is he okay? And you know, he keeps running.
Yeah, so as far as we know, it's 0, but there could be some that
There's wiggle room.
Yeah, there's wiggle room, and especially since some guys could die in the hospital, but it's not important to the story. That's why it's not really covered.
Is there a season 2, a Rambo First Blood Part 2, season 2 possible?
It's possible. It's not really planned for, but this anime is not popular when it came out. It's popular as a
Sleeper
cult.
hit.
Yes, it's a cult phenomenon. Like people love it after the fact.
Word. So there you have it, a movie version of Requiem for the Phantom and an anime version of First Blood. Oh, and before we go, going forward, we're going to try our best to keep our uploads on Saturdays, every Saturday if we can manage it. So keep a lookout. Anything else?
No, I think we're all good.
All right, so I'm Eric,
I'm Jared,
and thank you for listening to our little live story.
and have a wonderful day.